I'm Emily Ann Page and you're watching Start to Sold. Welcome to a brand new year. And at the beginning of every new year in January, every smart executive is forecasting and planning their future. And that means it's time to set goals. And if you ever have set goals, you know that most goals that are set don't ever get accomplished. So let's increase the probability that you actually accomplish the goals that you set with these 6 simple steps to not only increase the chance that you accomplish the goal, but that you do it with more joy, which heck, that is way more important. Here are 6 ways that you increase the probability that you will both accomplish your goals, but do it with joy, which as we all know is way more important. Point number 1, get it in writing. You are 42% more likely to accomplish your goals if you actually write it. Now we've all seen I Dream of Genie and imagine rubbing a little genie bottle and having our wishes granted so easily. It's effortless fulfillment of goals. No one really believes in a genie. Sadly, none of us actually have one. But if you write down your goals, you are 42% more likely to actually accomplish them. Whoa, that's like nearly 50%. Now, of course, this is a study done at one university, and I'm sure you can't extrapolate that across every single goal. If you're trying to go to the moon, that's a different goal than if you're trying to lose 10 pounds. But the principle is still the same. With clarity, we accomplish more. There's power in clarity. The more your brain understands what the ideal outcome is, the more likely it is to work in the back of your brain, in that subconscious part that's always working when you're sleeping. And it will be working for you on your behalf, constantly solving problems, constantly asking the question, how can we accomplish that goal? Imagining it to its fullest, imagining the future as if it had already happened. And when you write things down, you actually enable your brain to biochemically connect to the pen. So although there's no magic in your pen, there is magic in the process of your brain thinking through the plan. Under that same point, you would never start a project scope for a client without getting it in writing. A project scope allows you to put the terms into the contract. It guarantees that both parties end up happy, make sure that it's really clear what the desired outcome is, make sure that you have thought through all the steps, and it guarantees that you have a legal recourse to hold that client accountable if they don't end up paying you. So if you wouldn't start a project with a client in writing, why would you ever start to undertake your own goals? So if you are an executive who owns your own business, you need to dedicate time to doing that and treat yourself like you are your own boss. Write goals, put them on the wall, present them to yourself, coach yourself through it. And if you work for someone else, you know for a fact that you will get better results from your team, the employees that work for you, or your boss, the person who you report to, if you have clear written goals. The plan that you have for the year shows that you're a leader. So if you haven't written down your goals on a piece of paper that you slam onto that wall with a sticky note, that's your first step that will increase the chance that you actually accomplish your goals with more joy. Put it in writing. Focus on the positive. This is point number 2 when it comes to developing goals that you actually accomplish, but that you accomplish with more joy. If I tell you, don't think about a pink elephant, don't think about a pink elephant, what's the first thing that comes into your brain? A pink elephant. And Simon Sinek is very famous for having pointed out that the human brain cannot fathom negativity. And the moment you describe this thing you're not supposed to think about is the moment that your brain becomes obsessed with it, attracted to it, imagining the details of that pink elephant, its ugly big trunks, its cute little smile. You can picture the whole thing. And I told you not to think about it. It's because our brains actually biochemically don't imagine the negative, which means this organ inside of our heads actually needs to be fed positive input. Every single goal that you create needs to be reframed from a positive perspective. So I could tell myself, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. That actually is a negative thing. There is not 10 pounds there. But if I instead focused on, I'm going to be this weight, I'm going to be 200 pounds instead of 250. So that means instead of focusing on what I will lose, I'm focusing on what I would gain or what would be. Or you could say it differently, I'm gonna focus on feeling great. That's a positive thing. I'm gonna focus on eating healthily every day. I'm going to focus on learning how to understand my body so that I am not overeating when I'm emotional. You can focus every single goal reframed from a different paradigm and actually see it from the positive. If you were driving a super fast car, I'm talking NASCAR, baby, like super fast, you cannot focus on the wall that you're trying to avoid hitting because everybody knows that you will accidentally drive towards that wall. If you're skiing down a hill, as Simon Sinek says, and you're trying to avoid the trees, and the only thing you're focusing on is don't hit a tree, don't hit a tree, the chances are is that your brain is just going to be looking at all the trees and you're going to get hit by a tree. So instead you focus on the path that you actually want to follow. And the exciting thing is this requires you imagining a world in the future where things are how you want them to be. That is a powerful, motivating, inspiring, creativity, inspiring thing to sit there and focus on the future as how you want it to be from the positive. And we're not talking about being a glass half full kind of person, just having rose-colored glasses and, heart eye emoji. We're talking about actual practical biology in your brain. And that should make you feel a little bit better for those of you who are pessimists or sitting there thinking like, Emily, it's kind of annoying. I don't want to just be positive. There's so much wrong in my business that I want to fix. I promise you that if you can frame it up from a positive perspective, you'll create naturally, biologically, more motivation in your own brain to create and move towards that. It'll start imagining the world, imagining what it would take to get there, and it just takes thinking from a positive perspective. Step number 3 to creating goals that actually are more fulfilling and that you actually achieve is to create the carrot. We've all heard that scenario of a carrot dangling in front of a horse, and that's what gets the horse to walk forward. And so we can imagine a cartoon with Bugs Bunny and a little stick hanging out in the carrot, and either the bunny or the horse walking towards that carrot. And it's a cute, funny, stupid thing. But honestly, your brain is a horse. Your brain wants a carrot at the end. And if it thinks that the carrot is small, measly, and not worth the effort, it's not going to rush towards that carrot. But if that carrot is fat and juicy and delicious and crunchy, there's so much motivation to work faster, harder, to try to accomplish that goal. And your brain is naturally that same way. So how do you utilize this iconic cartoon experience? You need to create carrots at the end of every goal. You want to be a lesser weight. So we said this in the positive rather than the negative. What's the benefit? What's the benefit to you? This thing right here is one of the most interesting tools that we use to actually close sales, to develop better and deeper relationships with friends, to get closer to our spouse or partner, is spending time thinking about the benefit to the end user. And in this case, the user is you. You're the person who's going to benefit from all of these amazing things if you actually accomplish your goals. When your business is making millions of dollars and you're flying off on your own personal jet, what's going to happen? What's the benefit? The goal is not the jet. The goal is who you become, how you're going to feel, the speed at which you could accomplish more goals, the savings perhaps that you would have in terms of time rather than flying discount Spirit, you're flying on your own jet. And those are the benefits to you as the owner of this business or the executive running the business. But what about the benefits to the people around you? Can you take your team on retreats? Can you imagine a world where your spouse is able to travel with you for work more affordably? Will you have a better marriage for that reason? Framing up your goal from the perspective of the benefits increases the chances you're going to accomplish it. And the better the benefits, the more passionately you're going to fulfill that goal. If you believed you'd make $2 million at the end of doing task XYZ, how passionately would you do XYZ? How quickly would you clear your calendar of any other stupid activity? No, you're not going to go text everybody and like everyone's Instagram channel posts. No, you're going to stay focused on the tasks XYZ to get to $2 million. But what if the benefit at the end of it is something as simple as like $2? Every bone in your body knows that if the benefit is only $2, the action is going to be super little. So you have to define a clear, motivating benefit at the end of that goal. And the benefit does not have to be just financial. It could be emotional. It could be spiritual. It could be physical. It could be something related to defining who you are in a soul level, identity level, which is the most motivating thing for most people. If they really were to be honest with themselves, why does it matter that you're successful? It's because it has something to do with who we want to be, who we value ourselves to be. So the more clear you are in defining your goals with these types of benefits, by creating a carrot, you increase the probability that you're going to not only accomplish your goals, but do it with more joy. The fourth technique you can use to actually accomplish your goals and to do it with more joy is to yoke yourself to someone. And when I say the word yoke, I'm not talking about ripped. I'm talking about two horses in the old farming days would be bridged together with a piece of wood that caused them to walk shoulder by shoulder. It was like linking yourself, knotting yourself to someone. One horse knotted to another horse, tied up, connected. Now they were able to move, but they had to move in unison. This was so important because there's this big, huge, massive beast of a horse called a draft horse. Super powerful, I mean, bigger than a human. The crazy thing about these draft horses is that one horse can pull 8,000 pounds by itself, and the second horse can pull 8,000 pounds. So together you'd think they'd pull 16,000 pounds. But the surprising fact is that they pull 24,000 pounds. That means together, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And that's because the universe is made for us to be. Animals work better together, and so do people. When you look at your own life and your own struggles and goals, sometimes there are people who are dedicated in your life to be your personal friends or your romantic partner. And they're supposed to share a side of you. But that part of your business, if you just burden your family, your personal friends with your work stuff, sometimes you can actually zap the energy out of that relationship. But instead, you can actually create a relationship where you can have mentorship and focus the work part of your life and actually create better results than you could completely by yourself. Every single person performs better when they have a coach. You can talk to anyone in a top performing category of the world. I'm talking about the Blue Angels, the guys who fly all of those planes in perfect unison. After every single performance, they come together, they have a team lead, they debrief how their performance went. What went right, what went wrong, what will they do different next time? And having a community where they can debrief and be themselves and joke and criticize and talk about and improve together, as well as a person to hold them all accountable to a higher standard for themselves that allows them to give their best. And every human is exactly that exact same way. That's why we have head coaches, and we notice that football teams can perform so much better when they have a different coach put in place. It's because outside perspective helps us to do our best. There's no shame in that game, asking for help, asking for camaraderie, asking someone else to join you in your partnership for accomplishing your goals is not only wise, but it's gonna get you there faster with more joy. So put something on your calendar. Schedule 1 hour every other week with a buddy, a friend, another entrepreneur that you meet at a networking event. Make the commitment short. You can say, hey, let's do this for 4 weeks. Let's do it for 6 weeks. Let's do it until we accomplish this certain goal. And worst case scenario, if you don't have someone immediately in your purview, you can hire a consultant, just like me, or a coach. You can also join a mastermind. You can join a group where there's other people of like-minded goals that are curated by some other consultant or coach. Or you can go to an event like Tony Robbins. I love going to Tony Robbins' events. He always does a great job of getting my mindset back focused on joy and gratitude. What are you going to do to prioritize creating your goals with joy? The fifth technique you can use to accomplish your goals this year with more joy is to do less. Now, I know you're probably not believing me, but I can tell you from experience, and we can reference athleticism. When I wanted to go and learn how to run a mile right out of grad school, I was actually pretty fit. I lifted weights all the time. But when I ran a mile, I ran out of energy. I was gassed, completely gassed. It was like red and sweaty and gross. I couldn't run a full mile without stopping. And I asked a friend of mine, why is this? I thought I was in shape. And she said, you are running according to what you would like to be running at, but you are not running according to your actual endurance level, which means I had higher expectations for myself in the area of fitness for running than were actually real. And so in order to get to the point where I could actually finish a full mile, she told me to run slower. In this area where I was weak, I needed to do less, put less effort, have a lower expectation for myself, and prioritize my energy towards things that actually mattered. And the only way to do that was by being more narrow in the scope of what I was trying to accomplish. What actually mattered when it came to that run? Well, number one, I wanted to feel really good so that I would keep running, because my bigger goal was to actually run a half marathon. So I wanted to feel good. Number two, I wanted to finish the mile. What good is starting and burning out and not finishing. And number 3, I wanted to learn the skill of running so that I could run as many miles as I wanted to. I wanted it to be a choice and not a chore. Those 3 things, by shifting my perspective, allowed me to do less. I could give myself permission to run slower. And what happened? By running slower, and I'm talking stupid slow, where I felt embarrassed, by running stupid slow, I ended up accomplishing my full mile, but by finishing 1 mile over time through running slower, gave me the endurance to be able to go the distance. And eventually I ran faster and faster miles, and eventually I ran a half marathon, and it felt so good. I felt so accomplished, but I had to lower my expectations in order to give myself the space to grow and not burn out. So ask yourself, what are you committed to this year? I know you want to get into Walmart, which is a really big store. I know you want to do $10 million and 100x your revenue. But what is a very reasonable goal that would allow you to build a foundation and can scale faster? When you make time for that, doing the foundational work, building up your endurance level, building the process that you're able to scale faster in the future, you will guarantee that you create results that you want, finish strong, and do it with more joy. And this brings me to tool number 6 to accomplishing your goals with more joy. Tool number 6 to accomplishing your goals is using the Pareto's Principle to prioritize. And the Pareto Principle is called the 80-20 rule, otherwise known as AKA, and it talks about taking out of 100 inputs for a result, 20% of those inputs, which is a minority, will produce 80% of the results. And this is a weird phenomenon. You can see this applied in growing seeds. If you plant 100 seeds, 20% of them will be really robust and abundant compared to the other 80%. You can also apply this to your actual customers. 20% of your customers are going to be easy to work with, profitable, fun even. And the other 80% may be challenging because you're not capable of serving them, or their personality or their needs are not a good fit for you. So the Pareto Principle says that if you prune away some of the less performing elements and focus the energy into that top 20%, you'll actually create more results faster because they just happen to be more abundant, more productive, more joyful, more profitable products, clients, services, income streams, etc. Fill in the blank, whatever applies to you. And I can give you an example that might apply to you and help to inspire you. I had a friend who hired me for 2 sessions as a consultant. She never hired me again because she didn't like my advice. She didn't take my advice, and she ended up closing her business as a result. Her complaint was that she wasn't successful. And she told me, I don't know why, but I do all of this work and I just don't feel like I'm making any progress. I'm never making any profit. So I looked at her revenue. She was making $20,000 a month in her small business. Whoa! In a very small business that was a service education company. You don't need to make a lot of money in a small solopreneurship. So she was actually crushing it. And I realized that that was not actually true. She was successful. And instantly I knew that the problem was something else. I looked at her profit and loss statement and noticed that she was spending a lot of money on things such as hiring a podcast company to help her produce a podcast, hiring an agency or a ghostwriter to help her write a book. She had a personal assistant who was full-time. She had a nice office in downtown. She, of course, had other expenses like her cell phone or paying for going to special events for personal development. All of these expenses actually were incredibly expensive. And there's no shame in that. That sounds great. But when I asked her what percentage of these things created, the 80-20 in her business, 0 of those activities created revenue. In fact, all of her revenue was coming from a completely different income stream that she was 100% neglecting. I'm not saying this to shame anyone because I've done the exact same thing. It is so tempting to ignore your easy clients, the ones who are actually paying you, and focus on your worst clients or focus on building your business into the business you wish it was rather than the business it is. But that temptation is a lesson for all of us because she didn't want to prune away spending money on those other activities. She wasn't profitable and she ended up quitting 2 years later and becoming an employee of a company. No shame in that either. I think it's awesome to be an employee. But why? I just want a person to do it because they wanted to. She was a wild success. She was just spending money on the wrong things. Knowing your 80-20 can help you to redirect your finances, your emotional energy, your time. And in the beginning of every year, that's what you should use to prune away all the goals that you think might be important and prioritize the top percent goals that you must accomplish. Non-negotiable, the ones you have to achieve, should be defined by the 20% of the activities that will produce 80% of the results. Profit, revenue. Once you have profit and revenue, heck, you can do whatever you want with the rest of the profit. You can go buy a personal assistant or hire a personal assistant. You can go pay a design agency to rebrand your website, but sales is first. And when you put that first, everything else falls into place after that. Follow Pareto's Principle to prioritize your goals, and you'll increase the chance that you actually accomplish them this year and that you do with more joy. As always, I want for you to be a great success. I have deep passion for every person I work with and that I talk to. I want you to be so happy and fulfilled in your business. And that's why I do these videos. So if you like this video, give it a like. Please subscribe to my channel. You're also welcome to sign up on my website for my e-newsletter, Start to Sold. And of course, I'm wishing you an amazing year. Leave a note in the comments and tell me what your goals are. And which of these 6 principles and tools will you be using to make sure that you actually accomplish them with more joy? I'm Emily Ann Page, and I hope this helped you to go from start to sold.